Good morning, Gabriella. It's good to meet you and connect with you.
Good to meet you as well. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, my pleasure. I and thank your dad and my partner Mike for connecting us all to hear about all the great stuff you do. And so, if we can, let's just start with giving our audience your name and a little bit about you.
Okay, so my name is Gabriella Brignardello. I live in Thousand Oaks, California. I'm entering my junior year at Stanford University, so I'm going to be 20 next month. Big 2-0, entering a new decade. Um, and I went to Lorena High School locally, and I'm really involved in my nonprofit organization, which is called Mi Casa de Angeles, which means My House of Angels. And we're a registered 501c3, and pretty much we're dedicated to raising money and awareness towards our mission, which is improving the quality of education in Peru, specifically for those who are impoverished. And other than that, I like to swim, I like to run. I actually ran a marathon a couple months ago to raise money for Mi Casa de Angeles. So I like to stay active and stay outdoors. So.
Well, briefly tell me. So, what is the connection to Peru in the first place?
So actually, my dad is from Peru, and then my mom's from England, actually. So I'm first generation American. And since I was little, we've been visiting the country of Peru pretty much every year, sometimes twice a year, for Christmas, for family birthdays, holidays. And I've grown really connected to the country, and I really feel like it's my second home. I love the food, I love speaking Spanish, I love the people, and there's so much culture in the country of Peru. But one of the things that I really was bothered by, even just from a young age, I started noticing it maybe like 8 or 9, probably like 10 years old was when the idea really solidified, was how different my lifestyle was here to how a lot of the kids lived there. And as I got older, I started researching, statistics, and it's about 1/3 of the population, that's like 10 million people, live below the poverty line, and that's not accounting for those who live at the poverty line or slightly above it. And so several encounters led me to want to do something about it, because I just couldn't stand seeing these kids on the street who had to, beg for money or sell little candies or do things like that to be able to get food for the night, or they were forced to do this because their family didn't have enough money for them.
So, tell us how did. By the way, I do love ceviche and pisco sours and all that. So it is a great place, and I've had the opportunity to be there myself. And tell us how this started per se, and what you had to do to make this happen.
So I would say it started maybe when I was about like 13 or 14. I started thinking of ideas of how I could raise money. And a couple years before that, I had started a project raising money for the Make-A-Wish Foundation by collecting my neighbor's recycling. My parents said I was always very resourceful in figuring out ways to raise money but not have any cost for us. So I started this shoe painting, like business in quotes. So basically, my dad and I would go into downtown LA, and we'd buy these $2 a piece fake Converse, and we'd spray paint them all. And we'd sell them to my sister's friends, and then it grew a little bit bigger, and we would do like for people who wanted ones for schools, for my mom's company. There was one lady who bought, I think it was like 25 shoes for all the people in her office. So it became something that actually generated quite a bit of money, and the only cost was buying the shoes, and then my dad and I did all the labor. So that kind of was the foundation of our funds, which allowed us to then go and become a corporation and then become a 501c3, because there are some fees that you have to pay, quite large fees. But because of that funding that I had generated from this little business, we were able to start raising funds. And that was a fundraiser that we kept going, I think, until pretty much the end of my senior year in high school. So about 2 years ago, we stopped just because it didn't make sense when I was going off to college. But we've now experimented with other different forms of fundraising, and we found things that work and things that don't work, but we kind of learn along the way. So.
So you didn't take the easy approach of just trying to help a local charity. You went international.
Yeah, I wanted to do something that meant something to me personally, that I felt like I was giving back to something that meant that I could connect to on a personal level. And for me, Peru, like I said, has been my second home from since I was young. And I wanted that opportunity to give back to the people that maybe weren't focused on as much as other causes here in the United States. And social responsibility isn't huge, but it's not that big. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do is start that movement across like the youth who are more privileged, and even among young business people, older business people, because it's something that's a little bit it's becoming a little more popular, but it still has a long way to go, and it's nothing like giving back here in the United States.
Well, I think it's fantastic that that what you're doing, and you should be obviously congratulated. And one last thing I think maybe you could just say is for other young people, obviously it's been a positive experience for you. Would you recommend, or how would you recommend they start something like this themselves?
Well, I think the biggest thing is not being afraid of failure, because oftentimes when you're young, you think, "Oh, I don't have the connections, I don't have, the money, I don't know the people to get me to where I want to go, or to start this thing, or to have like, to be able to be in control of something, large." Well, we're like a small nonprofit, but there's a lot of fear and a lot of hesitation, is what I've found among people who are my age. But I think that the biggest thing is just kind of going for it and seeing where everything falls, because a lot of times we approach people to sponsor us for various things, like getting our books done or having legal help. And while we've been fortunate enough to have a lot of success with that, and a lot of people who are willing to support, there have been people who've turned us down. And so it's kind of part of the game. But I think being passionate, really dedicating yourself and knowing that this is part of you and this is something that you want to do. And even if you don't have 100 people supporting you, but you have one or two, that's better than nothing, because you know that you're going to have the people who are as dedicated as you are to the cause by your side while you're doing it. So we've been fortunate to have that as well.
Well, that's awesome. You clearly are a leader making a difference, which is the type of people we like to talk to. So, felicitaciones, and it's been great talking to you. And say hi to your mom and dad, and we'll talk to you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much.